it was a hole in the market that we identified that no one else was filling. So essentially we've been working in the mining industry since 2010, supplying vehicles to predominantly the Central European mines or mining operators. And they, since the end of 2019, 2020, just around the pandemic, started asking us if we could supply them with electric vehicles. Now, the market at that time didn't have any vehicles available. So we essentially sat down, we went out to all corners of the world to try to identify the best EV vehicle manufacturer that we could find, but we didn't find one. So ultimately, a little bit like the old Ferdinand Porsche, he said, I went out to find the best sports car, couldn't find it, so I built it myself. And that is essentially what we have done. There is a market need and there is a market space that we can fill, as there is no other vehicle out on the market today that actually fulfills a unique mining-specific electric vehicle specification. So ultimately what happens today in the mining industry, you have big mining trucks that are working in the productivity of this. The smaller vehicles that we are working in the segment we are operating in are essentially crew transports, and they are essentially road-going vehicles that's being used in the mines. Road-going vehicles tend to not have the quality, not the durability that a mining machine would have. So when we didn't identify that there was a vehicle that suited our customers' needs, as we were requested to supply electric vehicles, we essentially went out and said, okay, let's build our own vehicle. Let's see where that takes us, and ultimately that's where we are today. The challenges is going into electrification, and that's driven by that you have relatively small volumes of vehicles, which makes the cost of the EV vehicles quite expensive, actually prohibitively expensive if it is a purpose-built vehicle. The biggest challenge that underground mining has got is ventilation. Ventilation is a huge part of the operational cost in a mine. By going from diesel vehicles that are in the mine to electric vehicles, you're reducing the need for the ventilation. You're not abolishing it or eliminating it, but you're reducing it. And that reduction spells increased profit, basically, reduced operating costs. So that is a challenge that the mines have had. And it's driven by, obviously, that the cost of running an EV is considerably lower than the cost of running a diesel vehicle underground. And as we can see now when we are out speaking to mines and we are speaking to our customers, the driving factor in going EV, especially if you're in areas such as Australia, where the mines could be far away from anywhere, they have to transport diesel from the nearest port, sometimes thousands of kilometers up to where the mine is. If they go electric, they can essentially build a solar park, they can have battery energy storage, and they can charge the vehicles from the sun. So they're reducing operational cost as far as transporting diesel to the mine site. They're reducing operational cost and ventilation in the mine, and they're reducing the cost per driven kilometer because an electric vehicle, as we all know, has got lesser moving parts than a conventional diesel vehicle. You have a number of different mining operations, mining types. You have open pit mine, you've got underground mine, and one of the big parameters, obviously, predominantly for Central European and definitely Northern European mines is safety. And with electric vehicles, you are opening up to a completely different set of safety rules that you can play with than you wouldn't have in a conventional diesel pickup truck. The diesel pickup trucks they tend to be road-going vehicles. They have a standard ADAS, as they call advanced driver assistance systems, with cameras and radars and all the rest of it, that the mines don't want. So most mining vehicles and mining machines will have external proximity detection systems. And what we are doing with electric vehicles, we are able to integrate those into the vehicle's architecture. And that is a huge step in that the mine is not the equipment is not an add-on solution. It's actually something that is integrating, talking to the car, because we own the design and the development of the car. We also own the source code of the software in the vehicle. So we can open up to have safety equipment added to the vehicle, which we otherwise wouldn't be able to do if it was an external OEM from Toyota or Ford or wherever. So the long-term goals are, of course, to be a successful company in the mining industry, supporting the mining operators in the transition into EV. So there's a huge challenge in taking the step where we are going from a distributor of a vehicle, predominantly Stellantis vehicles that we were supplying before, the Jeep Wranglers and the Porsches and the Dodges, into being our own OEM. So we are now developing our own vehicle. We are building our own vehicle on a contract manufacturing site. And that, by us having that control over the vehicle and over what we do, we are able to also work with the mines in making the changes that the mines need and want. And one clear example of that is that by offering certain programs that we're working with today, we can help the mines to transition into the EV field and subsequently also transition further into the sustainable circular economy. So our vehicles, for example, will have batteries that can be reused, electric motors that can be reused. So we produce, let's say, vehicle number 1 with a battery and an electric motor. When the end of life of that vehicle has come, that motor and that battery, which will still have life left in it, can be going back into the production of the next vehicle. Obviously, there will be some sort of refurbishment done and so forth, but it will go back into the next vehicle, and that vehicle in turn will then have a second-hand battery and a second-hand motor, but there's still life left in both motor and battery. So we are helping the mining operators and the mining companies to actually be sustainable. Instead of just buying new and discarding it and scrapping it after 3 years, we can actually take certain components in the vehicle and reuse them. So we're helping on the sustainability and, more importantly, the circular economy track, which is a very, very important North Star for us, or leading star for us. So as we mentioned before, we are moving into a segment where we're going from a distributor into an OEM role. And that's a huge step for any company. And ultimately, we're doing this together with a development company in Germany called EDAG, which is one of the big development houses for the automotive industry. So they are essentially being given a specification from us that has come from the mining operators, from the mining companies. So we've taken that to EDAG. We've said to EDAG, build us a vehicle according to these specifications that we want. And then we take that to a contract manufacturer that will manufacture it for us. That specification in there is mining unique only. So we are not trying to make a vehicle that will go on the road. We're not trying to make something that will be parked on a fancy address in, I don't know, Stockholm, London, Paris, whatever. It's a pure mining machine. So it's built under the CE Machine Build Directive. So we take total responsibility of the vehicle's machine directive, or the build quality of the vehicle, if you like. And it is focused just on mining operations. And by just having a one-size-fits-all for the mining, we don't have to worry about police forces and agriculture and all the rest of it. The car will only be in mining environment, and it will be with the customers we know what, how their operations are working. So essentially, the vehicle is fitted with conventional drivetrain. So we have normal axles, front and rear. We have a transfer box, and instead of a diesel engine that's connected to this transfer box, we have an electric motor, and we have a battery. LFP technology, very basic, very safe, and all of the components that are in the vehicle are off-the-shelf components. So we've gone to the leading suppliers of electric motors, of batteries, of axles, and we've said, we want to buy straight from you, and we want to buy components that we don't have to develop. And that reassures our customers that should we, for whatever reason, not be around in 2 years' time, because that's of course always the worry for any big mining operations, how safe is that company, how long will they last, etc. We can guarantee that the parts will be there because they're off-the-shelf parts that are not just designed for us. These are standard components that can be had from the Bosches and the Webasto's around the world, and we don't have to worry about the supply of spare parts, etc., which is a huge important factor in a mining operations, as downtime is one of the things that you're trying to get away from as much as you possibly can. The Mining Jakob webpage, we have all the details of our vehicles, of course. The key aspect of the new vehicle that we're working with is that it is mining. It is mining unique. We tried with another supplier of a similar concept to get them involved. The problem we have is when you're getting into the mining industry, it is so unique, and the mining industry don't want to invest into a new company and a startup. They just want products that work, especially when we're talking our segment. Our segment is crew transport, and they use, as I mentioned before, on-road vehicles. On-road vehicles is a zero risk engagement for them. If they go to Toyota or Ford or whoever they may go to, they will buy a car, they'll put it in the mine, they will run it for 3 years and they'll discard it. Now, what we are trying is to get them to buy vehicles from us instead. That is, of course, a higher risk for them. So we are trying to eliminate that risk by showing that we're using standard components, we're using established suppliers, we're using a very well and respected development house with EDAG, and we have contract manufacturing that knows how to build vehicles. We are not trying to reinvent the wheel, so to speak. Essentially, the mining mobility is our second stage in our development of this vehicle. So the first stage is to make sure we have a vehicle that we can deploy into the mine, that the mine feels comfortable with, that they like the technology, they can see that it's reliable, they can see they can get spare parts, etc., etc. Once we're getting to that point where they have, how should I say, vetted and approved that the vehicle works, we can then help them into the previously mentioned sustainability transfer. So we can help them by saying, let's go and make this even more sustainable for you. Let us own the vehicles. You don't need to have the vehicles in your book. We know the vehicles best. You are buying mobility in the mine. That is what you're buying, nothing else. So we're doing an analysis of your mine. What is the usage of the mine, of the vehicles in the mine? And then we supply the right number of vehicles that's needed. We take care of the maintenance, we do predictive maintenance, and we look after the vehicle, either in a collaboration with the mine, so we use their mechanics, but it is on our instructions, or we use our own mechanics in their workshops, or we take over their mechanics and they'll be hired by us instead. There's a number of different ways where this model can work, but ultimately it helps the mining company to go into the EV transition with a minimum amount of risk, and it gives them a reassurance that the vehicle is actually being entered into the circular economy. We are recycling, we're reusing as much as we can, and that hopefully should have a less of a CO2 impact on the environment, and the mines will have a fewer vehicles on their own books. The investments will obviously lower.